So I like to fantasize, and what we just said about the ACC, like of course I sit there and I look at the ACC teams and I'm like, Virginia, yes, you're Big Ten. North Carolina, Big Ten. Clemson, you're SEC, get out of here. And I'm doing all this as well. What do you personally, like, what is your dream, since we're here and realignment is happening? Is there anything that, like, I know you're a big J, so you don't really root for things, but is there anything where you're like, that would be kind of cool if this happened? So, that this is on the horizon, like this is actually plausible, and if this actually happened, I wouldn't hate it.
So I had to do these like educated guess, bold prediction things for The Athletic, like 5 realignment scenarios for 10 years from now. Mm-hmm. So some of them, like, I mean, I talked them out with like real administrators and like real people like who think about this stuff. So one was like, you'd have a tier like 1A for like people at the highest level of college football who are paying athletes, like, and their salaries and it's whatever. And then there's like 1B for people who like aren't willing to do that or just don't believe in it. And so like I gamed out a lot of different scenarios, and one was like a big 3. And so it's the Big Ten, the SEC, and then the best of the rest is like the third big league. One thing that I would actually love to see eventually, which would take a lot of steps to get there, would be like a regionalization of everything. So maybe footballs just get pulled out separately. So maybe the CFP runs football or whatever it is. Like that's just separate. And every other sport, everyone just pools the resources or the rights and just say, okay, let's just go back to what makes sense. Like you get to play all your rivals, like all the Northeast schools are in a league together, so that you have all your rivals and you don't have to get on the plane as much. And it just makes sense. Like we'll just start it over from scratch and just do things that actually make geographical sense so that you actually either renew a rivalry or redevelop one because these are your neighbors and these are the people that you see all the time. And I would love to see that in all sports. Like there was a period in COVID where like people were getting rid of like non-conference schedules or like adjusting and stuff in like soccer, and they were like, we're just gonna play the teams near us so that we don't have to fly and like save money. I was like, why don't we do this the whole time? Like why are we doing this? And I get why we've gone to this point, but we literally are talking about a world where like USC soccer is going to be playing Rutgers soccer. We don't have to do that. Whole football. Football's the easiest one to schedule. They have 1 game a week for 12 weeks. And then everyone else play like what makes sense regionally. It would have to take so many different steps to get to that. But I would love something like that to happen eventually.
Doesn't that already sort of happen with some sports? Like, am I crazy, or is like because Notre Dame is in the ACC and some stuff, right? But not
everything but football.
Everything but football.
Yeah. But I'm saying like they're like the one-off. They're the exception. I'm saying like if you pull football out of everybody, then divvy it back up into ways that make sense for all the other sports. That would be great.
I completely.
I mean, you see, there's some small pockets of this, right? Like we were joking about this before we started, but like the Big East deciding we're going to be a basketball league, we're going to prioritize this. We are geographically, a lot of those schools very geographically tied to each other. So it does exist in smaller examples, but I would just love to see that across the board. Like, why do you have, the American and CUSA that are just like kind of like random states across the country? Just play more regionally. I completely agree. That makes a ton of sense to me. I'm going to answer my own question. I want Notre Dame in the Big Ten. I do. And I hate Notre Dame. I hate Notre Dame. I'll say it again. I hate Notre Dame. Football, I should say. Micah Shrewsbury, very excited about. Love Notre Dame basketball. Notre Dame football, coached by a Buckeye, and I still hate him, Nicole. I'm sorry. So you like Notre Dame?
No, I actually, if I wasn't clear, I hate Notre Dame. But they and the Notre Dame and the Big Ten have been flirting for decades, and it's like a. I'm glad that you're going to steal this terminology about flirting and realignment. I'm going to just keep saying flirting. It's the perfect word. I'm going to keep saying it. But they've been making eyes at each other for decades, and like both of them think that they're too big for the other, but they both kind of want each other, and it's just this whole. And I think like the cool guy approach to this, if you're a Big Ten fan, is to be like, we don't need Notre Dame. We got USC and UCLA, and we're going to get these. We need Notre Dame. We need it just like, what are we doing? What is everybody doing? Why is Notre Dame not in the Big Ten? Why? So here's my plan to get Notre Dame in the Big Ten, and you tell me if this is plausible whatsoever. I think there's a world where the Big Ten gets so bloated, and we might be there already, but the Big Ten has so many schools that eventually, like, you kind of. And this might happen with the SEC too, but my plan is that like the Big 12, SEC, Big 10 gets so big that you almost can't play non-conference anymore. Maybe you get like one game in, but like now the Big Ten's like, if we have 40 teams,
you're onto something here.
If we have 40 teams, why are we allowing like we should have
all league games?
Yeah, we should have all league games. That drives up TV, that gets everybody excited, all sorts, and the SEC does the same. And long story short, Notre Dame's going to wake up and have a world where no one plays them because they can't play any of the good. No SEC school schedule them, no Big Ten school schedule them, no Big 12 school schedule them, and now they have to jump in one of these lifeboats. So I'm saying everyone sees this coming. Why doesn't Notre Dame just get in the Big Ten right now? Because I want to beat Notre Dame's brains in every single year.
Okay, so I actually think you're onto something because my two main things, I guess there's three things for Notre Dame to stay independent. One is to make enough money that you're in the ballpark of the others. You don't need to be making the same amount of money because they would make more money in the ACC than they do right now. And they're expecting, like, NBC will probably give them what they need to be independent, right, in their next negotiations. But it would be more if they were in the Big Ten. But if they're in the ballpark, that's one. Number two, access to the national championship, which, as we all know, their athletic director was on the working group that came up with the 12-team playoff. They can make this thing every year. There's 6 at-large spots.
That's so disgusting.
No conference championship required.
That's so
they got access every single year. You remember everyone made such a big deal. They were like, oh my God, they can never get a first-round bye. I was like, dude, they game the system. This is a perfect scenario.
That's
they can
insane.
only ever host games, basically,
That's insane.
in the playoff. So they have access to the championship. The third thing is scheduling who they want when they want. So people bend around their schedules to make this happen, right? For them to finish the season at USC or to play Michigan or Michigan State or whoever that they want to. They always play a lot of Big Ten teams, the ACC teams, and the partial scheduling. But if they couldn't, because everybody else played all league games or almost all league games, and squeeze them from that standpoint where they can't play that national schedule that they want to, that is really valuable to them, that is one way that something changes. But again, I don't see these three things changing right now. But it was a good idea.
That's what I want to have.
I think that is the path that ultimately gets you there. But they're really adamant. They're very stubborn on this.